Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast of Parallel Barking. My name is Larry Backer, Woof Woof, and I'm here with
Arianna Backer, Bark Bark.
And we are here to talk about something that we talked about a little while ago. Although things are changing, this is the continuing protests in Iran, the genesis of which occurred just a little bit ago when the morality police detained a young woman, ostensibly because she was not wearing her head covering in the appropriate way, and then she died. A lot of people thought that she had been brutalized by the police. There have been rumors about that going on for a long time. The Iranian morality police said that I think she was 20 or 21-year-old.
22.
She was 22 years old, that she died of a heart attack. Very few people believe that outside of the morality police, I guess. And there were any number of protests that involved a lot of things. But a lot has been going on since then. Many people thought that the protests were going to erupt just a little bit and were going to dissipate, but in fact they haven't, and they've taken some interesting turns. So what's been going on, Nan?
So for the past over 2 months, there have been protests, like you said. They have been getting bigger and bigger, and some have been calling them a national uprising. And actually, most recently, and probably trending on your Twitter feed if you have been paying attention today.
Twitter? What's Twitter? Mm-hmm. That's another podcast.
Iran's World Cup team stayed silent for the national anthem.
That's right. That was played before the game, and that raised a lot of eyebrows.
Right, in solidarity with the protesters. So that was big news.
Right, and let's stay with that for a second before you get to the other stuff. And of course the players said nothing. That's what made the act of silence all the more powerful, is that they didn't lecture anyone about what they were doing. They merely stood silent and respectfully while the Iranian national anthem was playing before the game with England, and then they lost. But there's a lot of stuff that was going on around that before the first notes of the Iranian national anthem was playing. So, for example, there had been Iranian athletes, and I think we talked about this a little bit before. Prominent Iranian athletes have been among those at the forefront of asserting solidarity with the protests, and certainly solidarity with the women who have been, as many people believe, horribly mistreated in what even more people believe may be a very un-Islamic way by the people whose responsibility it is to preserve and ensure the correct actions. But the athletes have been, in this case, Iranian athletes had been lobbying FIFA through a law firm, apparently, this is news reports, urging the FIFA governing body to suspend the Iranian Football Federation and to ban it for participating in the World Cup. FIFA resisted, but more interesting still was that the Ukrainian Football Association had also been calling on FIFA, and everyone knew in the athletic area, everyone knew about this. The Ukrainian Football Association had also called on FIFA to consider excluding Iran's national team, citing the systematic human rights violations both in Iran. So the official Ukrainian position has been in solidarity with the protesters, and also with the possible involvement of Iran. This is going against the Iranian government as opposed to the Iranian people. The possible involvement of Iran in the military aggression of Russia against Ukraine. And of course, that goes to the highly publicized transfer of Iranian attack drones and suicide drones to Russia that had been used with significant effects against civilian and soft targets. And that in turn becomes even more interesting because today it turns out that the Paris Court of Appeal has been moving forward to broaden the notion of complicity for war crimes. This was a case involving a private company that knew or should have known that they were selling monitoring equipment to the Libyan security services, who then used it to commit human rights violations. The Paris court said that may constitute complicity, which then makes the complicit party or the facilitating party also a violator of human rights. So there's all kinds of things that are wrapping into what had started as a fairly simple, straightforward thing, now wrapping into much more interesting global trends and involving now other countries. So so I wanted to pause there to suggest some of the other reverberations that are coming from what seemed like a very simple and straightforward thing, which is silence at the playing of a national anthem. But there's other stuff going on too, right?
Well, right, and that's to say nothing of the fact that the World Cup is being held in Qatar.
Right.
Which has been controversial in and of itself. But that would probably be for another podcast.
Yet another podcast. Right. So there are allegations of human rights violations all over the place with respect to the morality police in Iran, which is the primary subject with respect to the Iranian government's complicity in supplying weapons to Russia, with Ukrainian protests, with the holding of this in Qatar. And so there's a lot that, and all of this to some extent perhaps interconnected. Rumor also has it, and I don't know if this is true, that there was a fear that the Iranian security services were also going and monitoring Iranians who had gone to Qatar to participate in the game, to check to see who is going to aid or engage in acts of solidarity with the protesters.
Oh, I had read that as well.
Right. And also that there was rumors were flying around as well that the Iranians were annoyed enough about this silence that they might have thought about sabotaging or at least part of the games in protest to the Qataris. But who knows? I mean, rumors tend to be a very useful thing. And whether or not they're true
in
or
the
not.
narrative, I mean, yeah, I'm sure protesters are plenty busy at home.
Well, exactly, and we've had some other prominent protesters, right? Especially, and to some extent, and you'd mentioned this before, women-driven.
Yes, this has been over 2 months of women-led protests. Starting from the murder of Mahsa Amini, and now most recently, very famous women, two very famous women actresses have been arrested for their acts of solidarity, posting pictures of themselves without their headscarves. So they have been charged with, whatever.
Right. And that's actually quite interesting as well, because we're now looking, if you think about it, the modesty provisions apply not only to the physical body of women in a public space,
but to photos.
The photos of these women who may be circulating. And that's actually a little mind-blowing, because what it suggests is, for example, if these women were to fly to Paris, where the national rules are very different, and where potentially they may be required to take it off, and a picture is taken of them, the Iranian authorities can choose to view that as a violation, as if they'd stripped down in central Tehran.
I mean, that's scary to think. Well, wow. now you're getting into jurisdictional authority, right? I mean, could you?
Yeah, well, that's right. The projection of this. And all of this, of course, then feeding into the Iranian government has been taking the position that it's the black hand of foreign interference that's riling up people who don't know any better. But I think it's very clear, and especially when you combine, it's the women and local women who are really courageously engaging,
Taking stands.
and now the athletes, that it's very hard to see how any of this stuff has to do with foreigners. And the idea, of course, for them is, for the government, is that it's really not about morality. It's not about women. It's not about the ethics or solidarity. It's about them. So it's the old story. Let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me?
Well, according to the government, the what it has to do with foreigners is the narrative. It's very convenient to blame everything on.
Right. But the reason for this is because they believe that this is actually being used not because anyone cares about women or morality or the morality police, but it's really a sophisticated ploy to overthrow the government.
Absolutely.
Right. And in a sense, this is a ploy that is used often, but in this case may be a horrible miscalculation on the part of a government that perhaps ought to be more worried about being much more in touch with their population.
With their own population.
And with their own religious sources, and with the kind of discussions that they should be having around that within the Iranian Ummah, rather than saying, well, we're not going to discuss any of this stuff because it's really just about the Americans or the Europeans trying to overthrow us.
It doesn't seem like that at all to me.
Right. And at some point, all of those chickens are going to come home to roost, I think is the expression. And, and not in a good way, I think, for the state. And it gets worse, of course.
Right. They're handing out death sentences to protesters.
Well, that's right. That's right. Well, I mean, and it follows.
Why?
Right. So if you blame all of this on foreigners, then anyone who's actually protesting is not really protesting about the abuse of women by the morality police. What they are, they become blind instruments of a foreign
government, right?
Right, and therefore they should all die.
Everything is justified.
And and for a population, you can see how well that might scare people into not doing something. But at the same time, if the people believe that indeed the acts of the state are both abusive and outrageous and un-Islamic, it may enrage them rather than scare them into submission. And that's the risk, I think, that the government is taking right now.
Well, they can also convince themselves that what they're doing is right.
No, absolutely. And I'm sure they do. But in these kinds of things, at some point, being right at the point of a gun does not suggest the longevity or stability of the system that you're creating. And at some point, there's going to have to be some kind of discussion. What's the word the Western people use? Dialogue.
Dialogue.
That's right. There's going to be dialogue, right? And in a sense, because the government actually doesn't really seem to be wanting to use words, the dialogue is ongoing. Every one of these protests, every one of these acts of solidarity is part of a dialogue, whether the state wants to engage in it or not. It's occurring. But yeah, the retreat into the death penalty and the foreigners is something else. And of course, there's an ethnic element as well. There have been reports that the Iranian government is now targeting ethnic minorities within Iran. The Azeri Turkish community and the Kurdish community seem to be singled out for especially attentive actions or activities on the part of the government. And that's also causing a backlash, and not just in Iran, but in the global Kurdish and Azeri communities.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But what is not surprising is that international partners are the furthest they're going right now is announcing sanctions.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're doing what I guess the West is doing what they do best.
Nothing.
No, that's not true.
I'm just
Sanctions
kidding.
are.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But-
No.
but yeah.
Sanctions are something, but it's just it.
Right. It seems to be a kind of misplaced thing, and this is again going back to the
Yes,
Ukrainian.
it's a misplacement. It's a
Right.
That's why it seems like nothing, because it seems like you're misplacing so much resourcing and energy and what you could be doing
Right.
in a different direction.
Right. And then you ask yourself, is it more about virtue signaling and less
Yes.
about, and is it more about the nuclear discussions gone wrong than it is about whether or not you feel a kind of solidarity to the expression of the population?
Well, they're even putting the nuclear discussions on the table as if that's part of a bargaining chip.
Well, yeah. Right, which is just extraordinary. And we've been here before, right? This is one of the frustrations, for example, that the Ukrainians felt. So the Russians invade Ukraine, and the first thing the West does is say, well, we're going to sanction them, the Russians, and maybe people who help the Russians, and maybe we'll give you some bullets and guns. And then as things got worse, they gave them more. But the initial reaction there appears to be of a kind with the current response of Western governments to the activities in Iran, which is, we're going to continue to sanction, and since we've been sanctioning the Iranians for all kinds of other things, well, we'll just add a couple more people.
Why not? Yeah.
Right, and there you go. But the effect of this may not be either as targeted or as effective as perhaps Westerners might have wanted. But yeah,
it falls short. It definitely falls short.
Right, and you saw it really falling short in the context of FIFA, right? Mm-hmm. So the Ukrainians came and talked to them, Iranian athletes came and talked to them, and what FIFA did was say, they patted them on the head and said, we sympathize, but you know what? We got a lot of something into these games, right. And there's no way on earth we're going to do this. Now, whether or not they should have done it is of course an open question, whether it's better to come in and make a statement but to do something. But FIFA didn't do any of that. It's like what we've just talked about with the...
There was no thought process.
There was no conversation.
No conversation.
Right. So in some respects, FIFA stance resembles the stance of the Iranian government in the face of people wanting to have a discussion about what they're doing. And that's
a wall.
That's right. And that's very telling and something that perhaps FIFA should not be very proud of, I think, in this context.
That's a very good point, yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with something that the West has at least purportedly claimed to be very, very sensitive to, and that's their position with respect to gender-based issues involving women, because at the core of this, we have to go back to the beginning of this, which is, well, what was the big explosion? The big explosion here involved the way the state viewed themselves at liberty to treat women, and especially young women, in a particularly disrespectful and ultimately quite harmful and violent way that may be, certainly from the perspective of the West and the way in which we're viewing the expression of dignity for women within society, may have been something that was worthy of a conversation, which no one is going to have.
Right. Yeah.
So that's right. And so here we are. We're sighing. There's all kinds of things we might want to say, but much of it can really be reduced to do it again, Arianna. That was like perfect. That sigh, the special right. We need a special effects for
it's just
for sighing, and what we're left with in the West, of course, is a little bit of protests, and the protests have died down to some extent in the West. Mm-hmm. But what is to be done? What do you think?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
There have been at least 200. I know, according to reports, at least 200 protesters have been killed by Iranian security forces. And what can we do?
Yeah, it would.
I mean, there has been a history of violence against women and against those who dissent. So it's very difficult, and it's amazing and inspiring to see what's happening now, but it's hard to think about what we can do, especially when you hear about the current reactions of the U.S. and the U.K. and their just sanctions.
Well, that's right.
It just feels hopeless.
Right. And at the same time, of course, you have to be respectful to the Iranian people.
Absolutely. It's just not, it's not.
Right. It's their conversation, but they should be given the freedom to have it. And probably it's creating that space for it. You know, the great pity here, from a very conservative position, the great pity here is that you don't have this conversation among Iranian clerics. There's a lot that can be said here. And the Islamic jurisprudence is rich with potential possibility for having, even if you want to retain the Islamic Republican system, there's a lot of space for conversation here.
Is it possible to open up the floor for conversation between the two parties?
Right. Exactly. Or even within the clerics, the Society of Clerics themselves.
Within, to even discuss something.
Right. In an open way. I mean, right. The religion is rich. Its traditions are beautiful. And it has a history of having conversations about dealing with modernity. This is something that Islam has had to face in a variety of different ways. It's been very contentious, of course, but facing modernity and facing the changes of the world around them is something that the religion, like Christianity and Judaism, has had to deal with. And this may be one of those spaces where you really want to give them space and you want to discuss, but you also want to, I think, express some solidarity with those who have something to say about this, especially when what we wind up seeing is the violence especially against women, that even to the most the people who are least interested in, all things being equal, in rocking the constitutional boat of Iran, making them think, well, there's a wrong here.
Right. I mean, disproportionate.
Right. And one that's worthy of a conversation. So for those of you out there, I suspect that this is going to continue. We certainly have not seen the end of this. If we do see the end of this, it would have to be by the use of violence that itself might require us to rethink the way in which we look at human rights. And then all of this ultimately attached to Iran's place in the world, not just with respect to the way it treats its own people who want to have a conversation about something that is really worthy of discussion in an Iranian context, but then Iran's role in the world in which it the certain elements in the state feel as free to badly train and badly manage their morality police, in the same way that they think very little about exporting drones to a state that will then use it to murder civilians in an invasion context. So
a different war, right? I mean, if you are, as an individual, thinking of helping, there is the Women's Committee of the National Council of Resistance of Iran is raising funds to support their continued work on against gender-based inequities in Iran. I suggest looking them up.
Right. And everyone should follow their heart. This is, and if in a respectful way, I think this is something that all of us should be thinking about as members of the global community. And perhaps clerics can reach out to their brethren in Iran and suggest ways of opening things. So this can come from both sides.
There should be many discussions.
Right, but thank you for pointing that out, Arianna. There's all kinds of ways that one can help without being overbearing, and I think that's the key here.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and that's all I got. Woof woof.
Bark bark. Thanks everyone. We hope to catch you next time.